Call to order the regular meeting of the Public Works Authority. Omar here, would you please lead us in prayer?
Sure, let's pray. Omnipresent God, we're so grateful for your presence right here amongst us tonight. We're so thankful for these servants that you've raised up here in this town to serve your people, to work to keep order and to bring new things here in this community. God, I pray for the wisdom that's needed tonight for every decision. All wisdom resides with you. And Lord, I thank you for visions that will come forth, that will direct us into the future. Lord, we thank you for all of these things. In Christ our Lord. Amen.
Councilman Stewart, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. You've received your consent agenda. Do I hear a motion? So moved. Second?
Trustee Rizal.
Yes.
Trustee Dowdell.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Hughes.
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. All right. We have one action item, and I'm assuming, since I'm not sure I've ever seen you before, that you are on our agenda. Adriana Parkinson, I want to address the Clinton City Council on the issue of depletion and usage of the Rush Springs aquifer. And if you could come up here and lecture and make your presentation, and then we'll go from there.
First off, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ariana Parkinson. I graduated from Thomas High School in 2003, and I graduated from Southwestern Oklahoma State University in 2007. I live at Fay, and I just opened up a little small horseback riding place out there back in May 2015, and so this is really important for me. But I wanted to come before the council today to bring awareness to the threat to the Rush Springs aquifer. A USGS study just came out November 30th of 2018, so just about a month ago, that says that at the current rate, the Oklahoma Water Resources Board is letting oil and gas, range performance as far as irrigation, at the rate they're letting them take water out of the ground, we're not going to have water in about 20 years. If we don't reduce it to 0.82 acre feet instead of the current 2 acre feet, that's how we won't have water in 20 years. If we want to have water in 50 years, the USGS suggests that the Oklahoma Water Resources Board reduce that rate to 0.43 acre feet. I do have documentation with me that I made 5 copies. I can send more if I need to kind of back up what I'm talking about. And something that brought this to our attention over at Fay is, of course, we've had several sand mines move into the area, and more coming. There's at least 5. And the amount of water these sand mines are going to be pulling is a great concern. Between all of them, so far I've calculated, they all get the permits. Vista is still waiting on their water permit as well as their mining permit. Alpine Silica is still waiting on their mining and water permit. They have not been approved yet. But if those last 2 get approved, I have a calculation of over 3 billion gallons of water a year will be taken from the Rush Springs aquifer. The reason why I want to talk to the city of Clinton is that the depletion of an aquifer, it does affect reservoirs, lakes, streams, rivers, because the way the water flows, I have USGS documents, is everything kind of comes from the aquifer. So when the aquifer goes down, then your streams and your lakes are going to go down a little bit. Right now, the Rush Springs aquifer only has a recharge rate of about 1.4 to 1.8 inches a year. So what that means is, you used to have a level here, well, in only a year, it's only going to go up about an inch and a half, let's say. So between the years of 2001 to 2017, a study was done by the USGS. It showed that the Rush Springs aquifer depleted by about 10 feet. That's a lot. If you consider how big the Rush Springs is, I believe it's a quarter of the state is on the Rush Springs aquifer. It involves 14 counties. And I believe the city of Clinton takes their water from Clinton Lake as well as the Foss Reservoir. And these are both right in there with the Rush Springs Aquifer. So when the Rush Springs goes down, those levels, according to the United States Geological Survey, will go down as well. I have maps with my packets. I have, of course, these studies. I wanted to print out the brief study that was off the USGS website instead of the 172-page document that shows the entire study, but the website wouldn't pull up today, but I did print out the cover of the study they did, as well as the first 2 pages, and some maps that show where the Rush Springs aquifer covers. The reason we're also very concerned with the Rush Springs, of course, is the sand mines, what they're going to do not only to the water, but the environment, which really doesn't affect Clinton, but it will affect your roads. I attended the Custer County Commissioners meeting last Monday, and the Vista was there, one of the sand mines, and they said they would not be using county roads where they're going to be entering and exiting the plant location itself. They're going to be going right onto a state highway. So the commissioners felt, well, that's okay, we're not too worried about our roads. So then I asked the question, well, but you're going to be delivering sand within a 100-mile radius. And I understand it's not just the one, there's 5. So each of these sand mines are going to be delivering sand within a 100-mile radius of each plant, north, south, east, and west. And I said, since you're going to be doing that, won't you eventually be hitting county roads? Well, yes, is what they said. So I just want to point out that not only will Clinton be concerned for your water, but also your roads. And everything that I have come up with as far as what these sand mines are going to help out as far as taxes that would go towards helping with the roads. The only thing that they're going to be contributing is regular property taxes, and I think there's a little bit of a tax on the equipment. There's no special tax for mines that would go towards a school district, would go towards a county, would go towards, well, the state, all the state's going to get, and I talked to the Oklahoma Department of Mines. I called them, and they said that the only thing the state gets is 1 1/4 penny per ton sold. Well, if you take all that times these 5 mines, if I remember correctly, it came to about, this is my calculations, to about, I think, $262,000. That kind of sounds like a decent chunk of change if that's to the state. Custer County is seeking $500,000 to fix a canyon road that's only, about 2 miles southeast of the town of Fay. It's not too far from where our houses are. So the county's seeking $500,000 to just fix that. The county's only going to get regular property taxes and a little bit of tax on equipment. That 1 1/4 penny per ton goes to the state. That's another reason why I felt it was kind of my, I guess, civic duty to just bring awareness to the city of Clinton, as well as anybody I can talk to on the Rush Springs Aquifer, that even before these sand mines started coming into the area of Fay, which includes 3 counties, Blaine, Custer, and Dewey, they're going to be in all 3 counties. Before these sand mines started coming in, we were already in trouble with the Rush Springs Aquifer. And the main, the USGS study that was done said the main thing that is taken from the aquifer is irrigation. Well, now we have, like I say, these sand mines coming in, they're going to be taking out a whole lot, and I just really want to just bring awareness to you guys that our water could possibly be in trouble according to USGS.
We appreciate you very much. Now, do you all have any questions? You know, obviously water and groundwater is a big deal around here, and industry and growth and that sort of thing. Do you have any questions for, I know we appreciate very much you coming here, even though we're one of a city within 14 counties that accesses the Rush Springs aquifer. And it is you're doing a civic duty, and I know everybody appreciates you coming to Clinton, because this is something, talking about water is important. You guys have any questions? Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anything that I have said or talked about can be backed up by either my packets or getting online or calling the agencies yourself. Would anyone like a handout?
If you have something,
Sure.
I would, that'd be fine. We appreciate you very much.
Is that your email address on the on the application? The Fay Chicken Lady?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can't forget that.
No, sir. I've had that since 2004, I think. It was like that. And there's a lot more information, but I just really wanted to show you guys, of course, the water part, because I know that's really important.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to email anything. Joanna Ferris is, I kind of call her our head researcher. She wasn't able to attend this evening, but she or I would be happy to talk to anybody, anytime. We're just trying to let folks know that Rush Springs is really important to us.
And very well, yes, and important to everybody. Ariana, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate it very much. Trustees, comments, this particular board? Mark?
No, sir.
Okay. Very motion to adjourn?
Trustee Rosales?
Yes.
Trustee Huber?
Yes.
Trustee Belleville?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. Call the meeting, the regular meeting of the Clinton City Council. You have received your consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Councilman Rosales?
Yes.
Councilman Belleville?
Yes.
Councilman Huglen?
Yes.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes. I haven't even gone to the right spot here. We have one action item, and Chief, are you gonna, or who's speaking to the issue of considering?
Brett.
Yeah, dispatch equipment bids.
Did you approve the bid?
Huh?
Did you approve?
Yeah, minutes.
Well, basically, we put in the sheet that we put in previously, and this is our dispatch bid that it shows all the towns that contributed. So this is just a summary of what we talked about at the last meeting. We did put out the bid and ran ads. We received one bid, and that was from Total Radio, which is the company that had originally bid everything to us and sold us our handhelds or some of our handhelds and stuff. So this is just a follow-up with that. We're working with them. As soon as I can issue them a PO, we'll know timeframe and when they'd be installed. But that's just a summary of what we talked about at the last meeting.
This is now day.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did get the bids in, but we just received one.
And your recommendation is to.
We go with that bid,
Go with
yes.
that bid. You actually talked to some other companies?
Yeah, and didn't get anybody to bid, so.
Is there a reason for that, do you think?
Well, to meet the specs that we have put into place, there's just not a lot of people that can satisfy all those specs.
And those specs had to do with.
The type of equipment, the system that we were wanting to put in place.
Well, okay, on the basis of your report, and update, do I hear a motion?
Well, I want to ask a question. Whenever we did the talking on upgrading the radio, were we aware that this expense was going to come also?
Well, I would,
If so, why wasn't this put in the same bid? Are we going to come up now with this, and if we approve this, are we going to come up with another $63,000 later on? Why can't we do everything at one time
This
and then kind of give us a better idea of how much money we're going to have to spend on this stuff?
well, this is what you approved. This was just, we went out to bid for, but that's the number
This
I
was
gave.
approved?
Yeah,
Well, we approved the
Why are we
dollar,
done it tonight?
well, we approved the dollar amount, but then we approved to go out for bids
Right.
on that particular dollar amount. What he's saying is that in doing that, that has led to one concrete proposal. So it's really, it's not, we're not talking about adding to anything. It's the original cost from our discussion, when was it?
last month.
Yeah, and so it's not by,
This is for the dispatch equipment.
Yes.
and
The
down
Which is-
below, the thing down below too, you remember when you were out here, some of them are out here now, well, nobody's out here now, but all the volunteer money coming in, the additional money coming in is down at the bottom.
Everybody's half of what.
Yes, yes,
Now,
This is on what all these other guys were saying here the other night.
that's right.
Right.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. You feel better about that?
Well, I feel a lot better about that.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, we approve that bid.
Councilman Dowdell,
Yes.
Councilman Gonzalez,
Yes.
Councilman Stewart,
Yes.
Councilman Huglen,
Yes.
and Mayor.
Yes. Thank you, Brett. Super, Brett. Okay, any trustee reports?
I've got a question. I noticed in January 5th in the Hunt Daily News, there was an official notice that the city of Clinton was seeking bids for a tennis court complex. And I don't remember us visiting about that here at the council. I just kind of like a little information on what we're officially seeking bids on. Last thing that information that I received from Mr. Stiles was this project would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $375,000. And I'm not quite sure where we got to the point that we were advertising for bids, so I don't know what we're bidding. I'd like some information on what you're officially seeking bids on.
Well, there is, the school is interested in participating in a 4-court complex. The complex would be located on, I call it the T-ball field or used ball field that is directly east of the existing courts. I can't commit them to a firm number. Their involvement will be based upon the total cost of the courts. So for me to come to the council and give you an estimate of cost, I can't do that. You can always deny the project if you choose to do so.
Don't you think it would have been prudent, though, from a management point of view, to let your board know what the negotiations with the school, or take what the negotiations involved and what we were thinking about building? We're not, in my opinion, it just would seem prudent that a director would keep their board in the loop of the negotiations they're having when we're considering building a $250,000 plus facility. And that didn't happen. I'm thankful that we have the opportunity that when these bids come in, we'll have it right here in our lap, and we'll have everybody's percentage that they're going to be responsible for paying, and it'll be here we go. It'll be a thing where we're just.
Well, none of that.
No, the total cost of the project to the city will be dependent upon what the schools, what level they're going to participate in.
Well, and the city
I can't tell you.
And the city has not, the only thing I remember any of this was in the paper. I think the superintendent of schools or someone mentioned this, which is the first public hearing of this, I think, is a possibility. And, outside of you trying to get a cost figure on what it would actually cost to build tennis courts, it's not a matter of discussion that the council has had.
No, and that's my point, is that
Yeah.
why weren't there official cost estimates? I mean, you can't, so you're telling me that Clinton Public Schools can't commit from a written cost estimate of what they're going to participate in? I mean, I don't understand why we went, I don't understand how it got to the point where the manager authorized himself to see bids.
Well, because first of all, Jason, I can put an RFP out there on a project for bid without coming to the council. And I've checked with that on staff. There's no policy you have in place that says I've got to come here for the right to go out to bid. Number two, I cannot tell you what the total cost of the city will be until I have a firm cost, not an estimate, but a cost.
You did not, there's a difference between an RFP and a request for a sealed bid.
It's the same thing to me. I use them interchangeably. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, but what you're saying is in order for the council to even see if we're interested.
Is to know how much the school's willing to get involved.
It hasn't even come to a point of any kind of formal negotiations at all. The council hasn't been able to get there. You're saying that we have to have more than an estimate, and you have the legal authority to ask for this type of bid. And then once you get that, then obviously then we would be brought into a loop where we would have a discussion.
I'm going to ask Mr. Meacham point blank, is this
Well, I mean, here's my perspective, is that the city manager does have the capacity to request, solicit cost estimates, right? And is soliciting a bid the exact same? No, but I would suggest that it's just a more cumbersome version of soliciting a cost estimate. So I don't know that there is necessarily any harm in requesting a formal response to a cost.
Well, and then taking that, Jason, I mean, there's an intimation here that there was some sort of sinister attempt to create an environment.
Well, you're totally misunderstanding.
No.
There's not any, I'm just saying that the council we should have had an agenda item. We should have talked about what it is that Mr. Stiles has been negotiating with the school. I don't know if we're doing 2 courts, 3
Hey,
courts.
wait a minute, Jason, I'm not negotiating anything.
Yeah, that would need to be anything.
That's,
Well,
I'm a little biased on this because whenever I read it, I was excited because my daughters have been having to go to LC twice a year for a Clinton tournament.
yes.
Okay. And nothing's been spent, nothing's happened, and he's gone out and I was happy with it, but I'm the kind of guy that's, if you can get some stuff done without taking my time, and then we take care of it later, it sounds good to me. That may be
and
really juvenile and young on the deal, but I don't know why it's a big deal.
If that's the way the council proceeds, that's fine. I've never been involved in a situation where there hasn't been a board discussion about something prior to sealed bids being advertised.
Yeah, but he's trying to figure out, it sounds like, what the school's willing to participate.
Sure.
And so he comes to us and he didn't have much to talk about. He didn't have a figure.
You can't get just regular cost estimates just like we do for anything else. I'm going to drop the ball. I made my point.
No, I think, and I'm interjecting, and I shouldn't because this isn't my conversation, but your point is, and I think that there is potentially some merit to the point that was requesting bids a more cumbersome version of what was done, maybe so, but I think whenever you actually solicit, whenever you got a third party involved, having a solid concrete number as opposed to an estimate of cost may be more beneficial than requesting a cost estimate. At this point, you've actually got a hard dollar cost, something that they've committed on. Now, if he brings the number forward to the board, and the board, or the council, and the council doesn't like it, then you all get to tell him to go relet the bid and make it more appropriate for what you all want.
well, even beyond that, though, we haven't even come to a point where we as a council have said we want to do this.
That's
But to get there, Jason,
okay.
well, but to get there, there has to be more than just an estimate that we can make an intelligent decision on, because the school talked about this publicly. I mean, I think it was the superintendent that mentioned something about it, but it's all been a bunch of vague numbers. They're not sure about cost, and frankly, they're coming to us. So while you can debate, I guess, bid versus estimate, it didn't commit the council, and the city manager, in my view, is not out in front of the city council. He's just doing his due diligence, and like Ernie said, this would seem to be why we hire him. He'll come to us with a situation, and we make decisions on this. This isn't anything.
If it were all our money, Jason, I would have done exactly what you said. But in this case, it's not. There is that third party involved that wants to, has led me to believe that they will get involved to what I would determine a significant amount and/or percentage of the total cost of the project. But when I come in front of you with that third party, I want to know just how much that is. No ifs, ands, or buts. An estimate wasn't going to do any good. I wanted a rock solid number that I could put on that table in front of you. That's why I did what I did.
And I would continue to encourage any questions that any councilman has on anything, that they go one-on-one with the city manager and come visit about it in advance to try to clear up anything prior to you know, any kind of unnecessary public conversation about something.
I've mentioned to you time and time again, you know, one of the only time that we as councilmen have any authority is in this public meeting. So I don't want there to be any misrepresentation about what's said. I want the public to understand what I'm saying and that there's not back and forth verbal altercations.
Yeah, I get that, right, but I think the public would expect us to, outside of being confused when we converse about something, to take care of business so that we, as an individual councilman, can understand the information on things, and frankly, the city manager is the source, and so once you get there, and if that's not satisfying, then you come to a public level and you visit about it. And I'm talking to myself, I'm talking to everybody on the council. You go to the city manager, and then you come to the public.
So if we wore that one out, Ernie, you and I were discussing the basketball games, the number of basketball games in Clinton this past weekend. There was the Hub City Festival that the Tourism Fund made a donation to.
Now 16
Yeah.
teams.
16 teams. Then did Arapahoe have a tournament taking place?
That one.
And then there is the, Western Oklahoma Youth Basketball League.
70 in that one.
And where were that, was that at like the gymnasiums at the elementaries? Where are they doing all
They
this?
use Washington,
Yeah.
they use Southwest,
Yeah.
they usually use the dome, but the dome's being.
Armory.
Yeah, the
Were they in the
Armory.
practice gym?
The practice gym, they weren't this weekend because teams for the high school were, that was their practice place, that was their shoot around. We played at the junior high, and that started at 8 in the morning, and the last game was at, I think, 8:30 in the evening. And that was texted to me by a friend of mine who I had no idea. So on Saturday, there were over 100. Now, there were 16 teams on the high school, and they were from 8 different cities, counties, but that's 100 teams. And
There are 100 down here.
there are 100 down here, and they're here, now there's 70 teams here every single weekend for that youth.
How long does that last?
Too long.
Well, they had the high school.
January, February.
Okay. January, February.
January, February.
So what you're
And that's-
saying is that that's a very good thing.
Oh, it is, it's great.
And there's a lot of people that work really, really hard. And, yeah, oh, absolutely. It's a huge deal.
I know we've been busy for all these tournaments. I got turned away personally for dinner.
At
on
your
more
own
than-
restaurant?
At the own, yeah. On more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nights. Yeah, I had turkey sandwiches that night. But it's good for everybody else.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Any other comments? Well, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Councilman Huglen?
Yes.
Councilman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
Councilman Dowdell?
Yes.
And Mayor.
Yes.